There are players on the field in Coral Gables, so that's good news for football fans across the nation, and specifically, of course, of the U. This is our Miami Hurricanes live show. We come your way each and every week, and the best way we can possibly do this is to bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U. This is now 50 editions of the show. Cam for about 48, I would guess. And again, this is our best edition when we get Cam in here to talk Miami football. How you doing tonight, sir?
Yo, I'm good. Just like you said, spring practice is underway. So, we are not, back playing football all the way, but, you get the little bit of just connection to the team, on the field right now and everything. So it's a good time. So I'm good.
Even though we've only got about 20 people on the line, I'm going to say this right off the top because we will have 3,000 to 5,000 watch it after the fact. The super chat's available for those of you who watch live on a regular basis. Keep in mind that Cam donates his time to us each and every week for an hour plus. And so please show your appreciation that way. Like, comment, share the videos out on social media as well, and subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cam's a very busy man. I'm pretty busy myself. Therefore, we cannot lock down a specific time each and every week. But if you subscribe to the channel, I get the notification out, and I announce when the show will be in any given week. It's Tuesday night at 8 o'clock this time around. Spring practice. So they went to the field just a few days ago, correct?
Yesterday and today.
We heard anything? Probably not at this point.
I mean, obviously, you get little nuggets of things of, guys doing well and, looking the part. Obviously, the big thing is, we have a new duo that we've been talking about of offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashley, and quarterback, De'Aaron King. So you want to see what those two are up to. You want to see how the offense looks, how drills are and everything. And you want to see De'Aaron King, like he's the new player in town. He's the new shiny toy, can't wait to get home and just take it out the box and see what it can do. And I mean, that's what's going on there. So, it is on air. Pretty much everything that they've been doing. There is the 2-day acclimation period before using pads, just like in the fall or at any time. You do have that just for health and safety reasons. So, yeah, it was just helmets and nothing else the last 2 days. But, there's some guys who look good. Cam Harris, the starting running back, waxed poetic about Jalen Knighton, the freshman running back from Deerfield Beach. Hey, he's learning the playbook right now still. But, whew, my God, when he gets his number called, y'all going to see about him. I said, okay. Obviously we're rotating through a bunch of wide receivers because there will be snaps to be had. And the freshman wide receivers are showing their ability to get open and make plays. It's been great. And you do have other guys who are still here, competing and improving their skills and everything. And then on the defensive side of the ball, obviously you just want to see that defense continue to be great. But you want to see them with pads because there's only so much you can do with helmets only. You know what I mean? Like you can't really hit anybody, the main thing is, okay, you want to see what this offense looks like. You want to see what these quarterbacks look like in it. By these quarterbacks, I mean all of them, especially, yes, I made my thoughts clear that you didn't bring De'Aaron King here to sit the bench. And I know that Miami is not saying he's the starter as of yet, but I find it very hard to fathom any set of circumstances absent injury where he does not start this year, De'Aaron King, that is. So, you want to see how he works in the system too. You know what I mean? But you just want to see how those things go. You want to see, but you also want to see N'Kosi Perry. You also want to see Tate Martell in a spread system if they are improving and competing, because those two should not capitulate. Those two should be busting their ass every day saying, I'm going to be the starter. And if it ends up not being them, which I think it will not be, it won't be for lack of trying. You know what I mean? So you want to see those things. So all of them, Tyler Van Dyke, freshman, early enrollee, quarterback, is on the field. He's a big, strong kid. He's the biggest physical guy in the quarterback room. Even a Peyton Matoka, who I don't necessarily think is going to really hit the field here, but you want to see what he does on the field. And you just want to see everybody competing and growing in their roles. You got guys on defense, maybe like Keontre Smith is sliding down from safety to striker to give some extra coverage ability to that position, and he had an interception today, I want to say, during practice. So I mean, you see things of guys, flashing and making some plays. So I mean, you've seen the clips that a variety of people have put up on social media. You've heard or read the reports that those same people have put up, including our own guy, Gabby Urrutia from State of the U. They're out, doing practice visibility and recapping. But the one thing I will say is, you asked me who my surprise might be for out of the freshman class. And I did another podcast, and I believe you asked me that as well. And I said freshman wide receiver Keyshawn Smith. And he started to make some plays today. And this is a kid with size and speed who is a perfect fit in the system, might be the biggest steal nationally in this last recruiting class. And I think Keyshawn Smith is coming here to take somebody's job. He's here to take somebody's snaps in this offense, and he flashed that potential today. It is only day 2. We will see. But yeah, that's a thing that I enjoyed so far.
Leave your comments and questions in the live chat. I will pass them on to Cam, and if they apply to me in any way, I will certainly, if I have an opinion on it, will express that as well for you folks who often question, why doesn't Mark have anything to say? Well, if it's nuts and bolts Miami football and personnel, then I've got the best on here to explain that. When it involves maybe a little larger scale topic involving Miami's program, its past, its 2019 season and what I saw out of that, which was 8 or 9 games, or has an ACC or a national slant, I certainly have my opinions on that. So I'm going to clarify something that you said concerning what Cam Harris said about Jalen Knighton. So this is one running back commenting on another running back who's competing for the position, making those types of statements about how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's necessarily competition for the running back 1 spot, but I mean, there's another guy at the same position who is going to come out there and make plays. So yeah, I mean, you have somebody who excels at that role, talking about the next person ostensibly to be in. And Robert Burns is not there for injury. Don Chaney is not. Well, Robert Burns is not there, it said, which is weird. So we'll see if he's sticking around or something else going on. I don't know. But he's not at practice right now. Donald Chaney Jr. is recovering from injury, so he's being held out this spring. The other running back in this recruiting class. So, I mean, hey, maybe it turns out that this recruiting class is a little bit like 2 years ago when Cam Harris was a freshman and Lorenzo Lingard got all the headlines. And then Lorenzo Lingard gets injured, Cam Harris steps up, and now Cam Harris is the starter, and Lorenzo Lingard decided to go elsewhere. Many people, myself included, look at Don Chaney as the number 1 and Jalen Knighton as the number 1A running back in this class. But maybe that other guy is the guy. You know what I'm saying? So it is potentially possible. So, yeah.
I've got a quarterback question before I dive into some of the questions I see in the live chat. But before I do so, I just want to reiterate that Cam donates his time, and maybe that's the wrong way to reflect that. Because if I paid somebody to shine these helmets back here, I'd give them like $10 for the hour. But the value is way beyond the time. The value of the insight, the information, the stories, the background on Miami football, and just everything that comes with it. That you can catch a deeper dive on, of course, by going to stateoftheu.com. All right. My quarterback question goes back to when you were just talking about De'Ara King, and there's no question in regards to who the starter is. Just a comment I know from my Ohio State people last year when they saw Justin Fields on the field for the first time throwing the ball at Ohio State, and just saying it was just so much different watching the ball come out of this kid's hands than everybody else in camp. I'm not expecting myself, and please correct me if I'm wrong, or you may not have this perspective at this point to be able to even answer this, that there's a noticeable talent difference between him and what we saw out of Jaron Williams, or what we will continue to see out of N'Kosi Perry. It's more about he's got a better grasp, or should, of the offense. He's more of a dynamic playmaker as a runner. He has made better decisions, not necessarily like this big talent difference that you can just be like, wow, watch this kid on a practice field and you can see why he's the starter.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that all the quarterbacks are talented. You know, like the lacking talent is not a thing that Miami has, you know, had to deal with. It's the performance. And De'Aaron King, I think, has consistency and elite athleticism. Like, you know, have you seen N'Kosi Perry juke guys out of their jock straps on the field in games that matter? I mean, that Virginia game that we won, you know what I mean? Like, you've seen it. I mean, the Florida State game, 2018, you've seen him go out there and ball, even when Miami was down by 1 million, but against Virginia Tech in 2019. Cozy went out there and balled. That kid can play. You saw, I mean, again, in 2018 against Florida State, those 2 throws back-to-back up the seam to Jeff Thomas and up the sideline to Brevin Jordan to win that game on that one drive, back-to-back were 2 of the best throws that you will see. That's talent. That's elite talent. It was inconsistent in its performance. And I think that De'Aaron King adds a level of consistency. And yeah, throwing the ball, you know, Tyler Van Dyke is a very gifted passer. You know, N'Kosi Perry is a very gifted thrower. I think he needs to develop a little bit more as a passer. But if you're sitting there on air and watching 5 and what's Tyler wearing, 19, sling it, yo. Now you see, okay, Tate Martell in a spread system, and it's like, wow, he's throwing passes that look good. You know, like spirals, not wobbly ducks when he's trying to get his footwork right under center and things like that. Now, De'Aaron King is the full package. You know, this is a kid who doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he can put it on a rope. He can fit it into certain windows, and he knows his limitations. He's not going to take as many chances with the ball as N'Kosi Perry because N'Kosi Perry has a cannon. So he can say, okay, I'm going to try to fit that ball in because I'm going to trust this howitzer that God gave me on my shoulder. De'Aaron King is probably not going to take those same chances because he doesn't have that kind of arm. But he does know what he can do. He does it very, very well. And he has the additional ability more than N'Kosi of being fast. You know, N'Kosi is like quick and he can move and he can run a little bit. De'Aaron King, I mean, he had a 98-yard kickoff return as a freshman wide receiver because he can fly. Now, yeah, I think that his skills passing are very good. It would be interesting to see Tate Martell versus De'Aaron King in terms of running because they are similar type runners as opposed to N'Kosi Perry. But no, I mean, I do not think that there is a dearth of talent in the quarterback room at all for the Miami Hurricanes.
Swamp Life 2020 asking, Cam, are you a fan of the helmets not having the U on them? I saw some pictures of those on Twitter today.
The
are those just practice helmets?
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the helmets behind Mark because he has Clemson and LSU and everybody else back there, but whatever. It's fine. It's a psychological thing. Thank you, Mark. You know, where you have to earn the U on your helmet by doing certain things, certain days, and dedicating yourself to the pursuit of excellence and the standards of the program and things like that. I'm fine with it. Honestly, I think that it is a motivational tactic. It is a thing that many a team and other organization have done. When I was a choir teacher, I did something similar where you had to earn your cardigan, your sweater in our top ensemble. You know, like, oh, well, I made it into Varsity Singers this year. I said, you haven't done this, that, and the third, where I've ordered for you this iconic cardigan that is one of our uniforms that we wear. So until you do such things, then you're here, but you're not fully integrated. Same thing. You can talk about the stripes on helmets places. You can talk about the U on the side of the helmet. You can talk about any kind of other thing. And it's just an extrinsic motivating tool for the players. I'm perfectly fine with it. I know that some people detest it because we're the U. You should always have a U on your helmet. So no matter anytime, anywhere that you're on a field, you're representing and people know. But people do know who we are. And if Manny Diaz has decided that this is part of the process to build this team and to get better, because again, 6 and 7, whatever it was last year, it was terrible. Got to get better from a performance standpoint. So I'm not really going to sit here and worry about the U's being on or off the side of the helmet on day 2 of spring practice.
I should have followed up the D'Eriq King conversation with this question, but I just came across it that was sent to one of our videos on the Miami channel about your rundown of the quarterback depth from last week. Dorian Wharton asks or makes the statement, I'm really skeptical about D'Eriq King, quite frankly. He had one good year in which he did not finish it. Mind the first 4 games last year at Houston were not that good before you shut it down, and this was with a great offensive mind in Dana Holgerson. So to me, the injury is still out. I'm just putting my analyst hat on. Unless I've got this straight, Dana Holgerson took over last year. That was his 1 year at Houston. I don't think he was the head coach the year before.
Right, but he's saying that even with a Dana Holgerson coached offense, D'Eriq King did not do well. Okay, D'Eriq King was bouncing back and forth between wide receiver and quarterback in 2017. He started at quarterback in 18 and had a record-setting year. He came back in 2019 and they scored 31, 37, 24, and 31. And the 24 was against Washington State. So one of the better teams. They scored 31 on Oklahoma in the opener, had 12 touchdowns total in 4 games, and then decided to sit out to preserve his eligibility for this season. I'm missing where D'Eriq King's performance last year was lacking. I get it from the team's perspective, who went 1-3, and they lost to teams like Washington State and Tulane, for whom, if you're Houston, you're looking at it and saying, okay, you know, if we're a mid-major and everything, or Group 5, or whatever you want to call it, but those are games that to hit to 11 or 10 or 11 wins, including a bowl win, you're thinking as Houston, we're winning these games. Like, you know what I mean? That's just a statement of fact. But you don't win those games and things like that. So from a team perspective, yeah, it wasn't necessarily great all the way through. But again, there was one game under 31 points, and that was a 7-point loss to Washington State with 24. But again, 31 at Oklahoma, 37 against Prairie View, and 31 against Tulane. That offense was putting up yards and numbers. So I hear you, sir, but I disagree.
Nate _561. Cam, what is the position group that worries you the most?
Cornerback.
Yeah.
I think that there are talented players along the offensive line and a player-friendly system that's going to help them be better. I think that quarterback, it has a talented position, and D'Eriq King is going to be the starter. So, okay. While running back only has 4 scholarship players, but when those 4 are led by Cam Harris, Jalen Knighton, and Donald Chaney Jr., I think that we'll be okay. Wide receiver has no really proven stars, but has many talented players. We'll be all right. Brevin Jordan's the best tight end in America. When he comes back from injury, along with Will Mallory and Michael Irvin II, we'll be fine. Defensive line is stacked, and then you're adding Quincy Roche, the reigning AAC Defensive Player of the Year, and Jalen Phillips, the former overall number 1 recruit in America. They'll be fine. Linebacker has depth and talent. Sure, there's some questions there, but Zach McLeod is back for a 5th year. You have Avery Huff and Sam Brooks, who are elitely talented at that position. You add in a couple of freshmen there for depth purposes moving forward, who will eventually be players, but add to the depth there. Safety is probably the deepest position on the team right now. Just you have so many guys, and they're all going to be in the NFL. You bring in Jose Borregales at kicker. You have Lou Headley at punter. You have all the skill players in the world that you can put on all of the returns and things like that. So to me, it comes down to corner. You lose Trajan Bandy he had to go. You know, he had family situations, the financial situation. He needed to go to the NFL and try to make money. I get it. But the guys who remain, there are questions. Al Blades Jr. is pretty decent. DJ Ivey needs to take a step forward. Corey Couch is probably our best cover corner. But again, he's pocket-sized. He's 5'8" something, 160 pounds. Christian Williams needs to step up because you need a guy of that kind of size, 6'1", 195, to really be impactful at corner, especially this year. And then you get guys in this recruiting class. maybe late and everything. But yeah, cornerback on the exterior of the defense, that is where I think I am most concerned personally.
Right, folks, please like the video. Head out onto social media and share the videos. You've got a sphere of influence that we don't have. So you can bring more Miami fans into the chat, or just college football fans as well. Also subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. LJ is asking, is Keontra Smith's move to striker permanent, an experiment, or something else? Thought Keyshawn Washington was recruited for that.
I don't think that those are mutually exclusive propositions to say, first of all, about both Smith and Washington being at striker. Keyshawn Washington played pretty much a striker position, in the box safety kind of a thing in high school. So I think that he will be a fit there. The Predator, because he has those long dreads. You'll see him. You can't miss him. But Keontra Smith, everything is temporary until it's permanent. You know what I mean? So I would say we can classify it as an experiment, but I think that how he does will prove whether he stays there or moves on. You know what I mean? Like, you experiment with something and it works, then awesome. Think about Romeo Finley when we moved him to striker. We didn't know that he was going to be the most improved player on defense in 2018 and a staple, one of the best players on defense in 2019. You didn't know that was going to happen. So you tried it out, saw what happened, and said, oh, yeah, no, we're going to roll with that. I think that we're in that same spot with Keontra Smith. If it works, then it's an experiment that went well, and we're going to continue to run with it. If it doesn't work, if he's not a fit there, then, yeah, he's going to move back to safety. So I think it is incumbent upon him and how his performance is at that position. But I'm not going to say that it's just a shot in the dark. Something – I'm not sitting here saying there's no way that's going to happen. We've seen things like that, i.e. David Njoku wearing a number 50 jersey, playing linebacker when Al Golden was here. It was only for a couple of days in practice, but he looked like a fish out of water, and everyone was like, yo, back on offense. Like, this kid is a champion hurdler, a champion high jumper. He's oozing athleticism from every pore of his body. I get that you maybe want to put that kind of person on defense, but with Mark D'Onofrio as the defensive coordinator, that wasn't going to work. Put him back on offense, let him cook. So, I mean, yeah, that literally lasted 2 days. And from the instant that they hit the field that day, and everybody saw, they're like, okay, we're the receiver tight ends. David Njoku's over the what? Everybody knew that was going to be a short-lived experiment. This with Keontra Smith is not that. You're trying out a different alignment and engagement for him on defense. But I think I would say he's going to be there at striker unless it crashes and burns. That's the way that I look at it. But I mean, semantically, you can call it an experiment if you like.
Ohio Canes fam. I always enjoy when people ask about games that are going to be played close to November in March. But asking about thoughts on the North Carolina game, let's keep in mind that Miami will have had 6 games in the books to be played by then. I get it. To me, that's the game. If both teams play to their expectations, reasonable expectations, to me, this will be the game of the year in the Coastal Division. I think these are the 2 best teams, the 2 most talented teams. I'm fascinated with North Carolina to see if they can take the next step. They played 2 very interesting games in the non-conference schedule against UCF and Auburn. Sam Howell's the best quarterback in the division coming back, second best in the conference. And both running backs are back. Their 3 best wide receivers back, 4 offensive linemen back. They lost their all-ACC center, but besides that, everybody else is back, and most of their production on defense is back. They're going to be really good. They intrigue me. North Carolina intrigues me.
I mean, yeah, I think that I agree with what you said. I mean, if both teams play to capabilities, which, again, is something Miami has struggled to do, over the course of pretty much the last 15 years, we know. But if both teams play to their capability, coming off of a bye week in the middle of October, this is the game of the year in the ACC Coastal Division. it should be the Coastal Division Championship game if everything goes the way that it should. It's a huge game. It could be if it is a night game. People are talking about, oh, we didn't get the Miami Knights Mark Squad all black everything jerseys. I'm like, you have to have a night game for those because you're not going to wear them during the daytime in South Florida. And the only night game that we ended up getting was Virginia, which was already announced as the Parley Adidas, partnership game. So you had white jerseys for that one. But, maybe we could have an inverse of when they went Zero Dark Thursday against Miami a couple of years ago, where that's a, black jersey, prime time, 8 o'clock game. I'm not going to get into predictions or anything, but I agree with the scale and the magnitude of that game. If Miami does what they need to do, which if you've been watching these videos, whether it's on, this or with this branding between Mark and I or any of the other previous ones, since we've been doing this for many a year now, trust, I know he said, oh, Miami Live, this is 50. We've been on this stream and on these microphones and things for way more than 50 sessions. Just trust me on that. I've always said, if my focus has been about Miami doing what Miami needs to do and playing to the level of the talent on our roster. I've always invariably said that, which is why I'm frustrated sometimes, because I still have this worldview where we have this talent that needs to perform to this level. The North Carolina game is a great chance to show and prove that we're able to do that. And yeah, the scale of the game is, it could be magnificent. It is setting up right now in the offseason that, it is going on this collision course this way. But obviously both teams need to get to that game with a combined 2 losses or less for it really to have the magnitude that it could. But yeah, it could be one of the bigger games that we've seen in recent memory.
As I said a few months ago, after doing a little research, I believe the first time Cam was on my channel was prior to the Louisville Bowl game that was played in Orlando, whatever they called that at the time. The Russell Athletic, is that what it was at the time? It was the, Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, no, I remember. I was there.
2013. So
Champ
we're talking
Sports or something?
It was the Champ Sports.
I think it was the last year of the Champ Sports.
Yeah, then it became the Russell Athletic, and now it's the Camping World.
Yeah, it was either the last year of the...
Yeah, I think it was the Champ Sports.
It was either the last year of Champ Sports or the first year of Russell Athletic. One of the two. But
yeah, so I believe that was December of 13.
Yeah.
Been a while.
Exactly. So, like I'm saying, I know that you say, oh, this is 50, but it's 50 of this platform, this actual branding and things like that. But if you go back and look, we've had many, many conversations. And as long as I've been here talking about this, and even from before then, again, my worldview on this is Miami handling Miami's business. And this UNC game that you asked about, I think is another just great chance to show and prove that we can, but that's something that we have not been able to prove recently.
So when did you start on State of the U?
Tabardine, look, guys like FIU, it was the, I think or something lagged, but to the comment on the stream, Tabardine won. Guys, that FIU game was a fluke. If Miami plays them 10, Miami wins 9 of those 10 games. Miami had never lost to them. It's like infinitely more than just 9 out of 10. You know what I mean? It's like 99 out of or 99 and a half. It is so much more than that. It is so much more fluke. It is so much flukier than you're giving it credit for being fluky. Like it just,
yeah, it's. I won't even put a number on it. I was going to say like 97-3, 98-2, whatever.
Right. Even more than that. And the next statement, Miami is not worried about Georgia Tech. True, but you found a way to lose to that terrible team last year. It's like in 2017 or 16, excuse me. Everybody in America is making fun of Notre Dame for going 4-8, except for us because we were one of the 4 that let them win. Yeah, you might not be worried. You might not say that you're worried about Georgia Tech, but again, respect all opponents and fear none, because that terrible, no good, very bad Georgia Tech team beat Miami last year. So you might want to be concerned about them until you beat them.
And Jeff Jenkins, I hear good things about what he's doing down at Georgia Tech. It may take a little while. They were pretty bad again.
Collins.
They did win the one game. Jeff Collins. Why do I do that? You know, Jeff Jenkins was an outfielder for the Milwaukee Brewers back around 2000, 2003 in that range. And for some reason, that always comes out of my mouth. Jeff Collins. Yes. Yeah, so many times at one point I spit out Jeff Jenkins a few times, and man, people were all over me, thought I had no idea who the man was. Yeah, I know. I even interviewed him at American Conference Media Days one year. I know who Jeff Collins is.
You know, mistakes happen.
Follow the sport. I was in that repeated cycle
right
of just having that come out of my mouth. All right. Man, people are fighting in the chat. Give us some questions and comments, folks. Let's get to this offensive line commit and get a bit of a scouting report on him.
Yeah. So Michael McLaughlin is his name. He goes to Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, Florida. If you're thinking that you know the name of that school, number one, Corey Gaynor went there. Number two, that's where they did have that mass shooting a couple of years ago when I was teaching. And it started the, March for Your Lives campaign, all of those young people from that school, taking a stand against gun violence. I'm just telling you the situation. I am making no pronouncements about their, cause. I'm just telling you. So if you thought, when you heard that, you knew the name of the school, those are probably one of two reasons why you do. Michael McLaughlin is originally from Indiana or Southern Ohio, I believe, moved down a couple of years ago. He came to Miami and he played tight end. He came down for a camp and he played at the tight end position. And after the session last year, Miami was like, would you work out at offensive tackle? And he did well at it. So then he played offensive tackle for Stoneman Douglas in the fall. He's a kid who he fits the mold of a tackle. He's a legitimate 6'7". He's only about 255 or 260, so a little light in the pants. Yes, he's going to need to add weight moving forward. But again, he's a current high school junior going into, his senior year next year. And he's probably a guy who's going to need a little bit of time at the college level before he hits the field in a tangible kind of a way. But he has all of the markers for being a good tackle prospect, light on his feet, played other sports as a kid. Again, he's 6'7", 255, 260 right now. So he has the framework, obviously has a long wingspan, is quick on his feet, things like that. And he played fairly well at the position already. So you're not taking somebody like Eric Winston in high school. He played tight end exclusively, but he also went to a run-heavy school in Texas. So the tight end was ostensibly a sixth offensive lineman when he came in. Eric Winston played tight end his freshman year, switched over to left tackle, had a long NFL career, and things like that. So he's not necessarily Michael McLaughlin is not coming in to do that. He's coming in straight away to play tackle, but he's already a blue chip kind of talent. 6'7", 255 with good physical skills and things like that. This is a guy that Miami wanted. Obviously, he's been on campus a bunch of times. He was on campus for the first day of spring practice yesterday and then said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to commit. And obviously knows or had a conversation. His parents were there, spoke with the staff about, the new recruiting protocols. Like, hey, this is what it means to be committed to the University of Miami. These are the things, whatever. So he agreed with it. He said he was all in with it. And so, Miami's added, at least verbally to this class, a big and talented, tall, lengthy, I won't say big, but tall and talented tackle, who over time will probably be able to add weight and hit the field at some or one of the positions. But I mean, when you add a guy who's a borderline blue chip talent from Broward County along the offensive line and has that kind of height and length that is fairly uncommon, this cannot be looked at anything but a positive. And I think that Garen Justice, the offensive line coach, obviously was not the first person at Miami who recruited Michael McLaughlin, because Garen Justice just got here and Miami's been recruiting McLaughlin for more than a year. But to be able to lock him down now and move on to other targets like a Ryan Rodriguez from Columbus and some other guys locally is a great step. So onward, upward, and forward we go.
I believe we're going to run a poll.
Okay.
on the hiring of Manny Diaz. I'm just trying to figure out how to phrase it because it hit me during a conversation last week about Florida State and the hiring of Mike Norvell to tap into the Florida State fan base to see if they are generally in favor of the Mike Norvell hiring. So we received 564 votes. I'm going to ask you to guess, not that you have the pulse of the Florida State fan base, but without having played a game, of course, it's all perception. It's all, what do you think he did before Florida State? Do you take, for the individual to assess Mike Norvell coaching at Florida State, do you put credibility into what he did at Memphis? Do you like what he's said so far? Obviously, the guy hasn't coached a game. His record 0-0, but we received 564 votes. And I'm guessing most of these people were Florida State fans. Obviously, I can't gauge that, but I was just asking for Florida State responses. How many in favor of the Mike Norvell hiring?
65%.
Got 84%. So now that Manny Diaz has coached a season of 13 games, I'm trying to figure out how I would phrase that, because to ask people to think back, were you in favor of the hiring of Manny Diaz? It's difficult for people to stay objective and say, yeah, oh yeah, I was completely on board if they're not happy with 6 and 7. So maybe I'll phrase it. Yeah, I'll have to come up with a good phrasing, but be looking out on Twitter and on our community page here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, asking, and you can leave your vote in the comments section, but it's much easier to do it poll style. And I expect to get a lot more comments for us on the Manny Diaz hiring than Mike Norvell. So we maybe we top 1,000 votes on this one. I will ask some semblance of a question regarding your support of or your evaluation of Manny Diaz to this point.
Okay.
I'll be interested to see how we fare there, because I think people really got behind the concept or the thought of Manny Diaz being the coach as a Miami guy, his father being mayor, him already having been in charge of a very successful defense. I think people really want, of course, they want him to succeed if they're Miami fans. That can be stated, obviously. But he's likable. He's a guy that they want to see succeed.
I mean, for the most part, yeah. I was trying to see where. Hold on. I was trying to see where there we go. Fan polls, because we did one something similar about your thoughts and feelings on the program with SB Nation. That's a thing that we've all been doing across the board. Yeah, no, it was pretty bad at the end of the year. 10.8% were confident in the direction of the program going into the bowl game, so very low percentage of fans felt positively then. Moves have been made and things are trying to be changed, so maybe that will improve. But you do have to temper expectations a little bit, because again, the best laid plans of mice and men sometimes run afoul, which is what we had when Dan Enos came here, and you saw what happened there with him running the offense, and everybody was very excited about that, and then the performance wasn't there. So there are reasons to be cautiously or more optimistic right now, but we still haven't played anybody yet, so it would be interesting to see. Yeah.
George is a Gator fan who calls me. George has left more comments in the comment section of these videos on my channel. I guarantee it. I don't have to count them and could never do that anyway, than anybody. And George, even as a Florida fan, still likes all these Miami videos, still likes and comments to the Miami videos, and so some very funny things. Is Nebraska any kind of rival to Miami? Just because of what the game that was played in 1984 and the game in 1995. And then, they played 3 national championship games or what you could consider to be national championship games, now that I think about it.
Still rivals.
Well, more than that, actually.
Yeah.
They played those games in the late 80s when Miami trucked them.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of historical context of, right.
5 Orange Bowl / national championship games.
You know what I mean? It's a lot.
Being in the Rose Bowl. Yeah.
You know, in terms of historical context of teams, championship caliber teams, and I mean, both teams have won national championships. We've gone up against each other for them. Miami beat down Nebraska a bunch of times. Nebraska has beaten other people, and they have rings to their credit as well. So in terms of historical context for where things were, yes, you can look at these teams historically as having been rivals and things like that. But again, through the 70s and 80s, there was that connection where they played a lot. So are like the team still rivals? No. But when Miami and Nebraska played that home and home, all those old things came back up, and you feel those ways because you're sharing the field against them again. But that was more like in the moment, and we're going to experience that rebirth or reconnection to the past for those 2 years when we played, and then move on about our lives. And I think that that's it. The way that I feel about it. Sure, you did have what's his face, Jaden Francois from South Dade pick Nebraska over Miami on signing day. Pick Nebraska over Miami because we finally decided, yeah, no, go ahead, buddy. Like, get out of Dodge. Go ahead. Be great out there. So can you talk about, okay, on the recruiting trail, have there been some head-to-head battles and like a little bit of a connection? Yeah, but the rivalry, not really. But I mean, anytime that these teams are recruiting the same player, or, if we play on the field again, of course, all those old things are going to be mentioned. But like, I wouldn't call it a rivalry anymore just because we haven't played and not played anything of consequence as happened, 30, 40 years ago in the 80s.
So the series fascinates me because I will stop short of calling myself a college football historian, because you need to know a lot and have a lot of perspective. But I have watched a lot of college football in my day, and I'm put some years behind me. And yeah, I've read a lot, and a lot of scores and stuff stick to my brain. So I know quite a bit. And I lived through all that. And it was fascinating because as a college football junkie at the age of about 14 at the time, the 1983/84 game for the national championship, people that didn't watch college football, like that Miami was playing in the Orange Bowl and could win a national championship, was like they came out of nowhere. Now, I knew Miami had been good for about 3 years. The 1980 team, 81 team with Jim Kelly at quarterback, they were really good. But people didn't regard them because they weren't right at the top, but they were 10-2 good. They were really good. And then in 83, if I'm not mistaken, they lost their first game. I remember watching this game on ESPN to Florida, 28-3, the opener. They lose this opener. Then they go on this run and they beat everyone. And Miami's an independent at the time, have a very power-packed schedule. And again, college football being very of blue blood thinking. They're really not regarded, talked about. And they had the 5th ranking in the country coming into that game against Nebraska. And Nebraska was, I believe, a 17-point favorite. And were just running roughshod over everyone, just annihilating everyone, and being considered by many to be the greatest team in history, with the Heisman Trophy winner at running back, Mike Rozier. But Miami, of course, was ahead of the curve in regards to passing offense, had skill position players that people didn't recognize as being great at the time, come out with a future NFL quarterback, star quarterback in Bernie Kosar. And it's just a brilliant game. Miami jumps out early. Nebraska starts to enact some of their brute force. And it was just a classic contest of new school football, old school football. Comes down to the 2-point conversion. Tom Osborne, to his credit, could have won a national championship by kicking the extra point, and it did not want to do so. They lose 31-30.
Shout out to Kenny Calhoun.
Yes, who defended the play. There was a bit of a swing pass on the right side. Nebraska having to do something, and that was probably a difficult decision for them to make, and probably credit their ability to scout Miami and even because Nebraska against most teams would have been like, we got the ball at the 2.5 yard line. We're just going to pound it right ahead. And,
Right.
but no, they pretty much determined we got to throw this ball in the end zone. And Miami wins 31-30, pulls off an upset to go all the way, vault from 5-1 and win the national championship. Then the two teams get together, and I believe the scores stick to my head were 22-0 and 23-3 in the late 80s in the Orange Bowl. So Nebraska shows up again. They're a really good team, but at this point, most of us kind of got the idea that the Nebraskas and Oklahomas of the world, they're outdated. They're really good. They've got all sorts of talent, and they'll bludgeon their conference. But man, they can't power football a Miami.
Right.
Miami's just as good as they are as a power team, and then Miami's just going to throw the ball all over the place, and they're just too skilled. And Nebraska was still playing prehistoric football and throwing the ball 8 times a game, and that's the result of the games were 22-0 and 23-3.
And I will say this: for 3 times now, you said that Miami was cutting edge in the passing game. Think of the difference between now and then, where things have been standard for Miami or keep consistent from that time to now, while other teams have then leapt forward. And like you could see again in the early 2000s, like, yeah, Miami's still Miami, but that Peach Bowl against LSU, that's chink in the armor, and then things going on. Where there was a time when Miami was cutting edge, but then just stagnated. And these are things that as fans of this program, and yes, there are fans who are chronologically my age, but maybe longer tenured as Canes fans, because again, I grew up as a Michigan fan. I didn't become a Miami camp fan until I had campus at 19 years old in 2000. So I was not born into this. I've not been around it forever. But anybody who has been around it at all can see, hey, there was a time when we were the ones who set the pace on these things, and we're not doing it anymore. And that's also part of the frustration. So, like Mark said it, Miami was cutting edge in the passing game, and then that helped them win championships. That was a direct correlation to a statement that was just made. So maybe, just maybe, updating this offense, doing things in a cutting edge way can end up in a successful situation for Miami. I'm just saying.
And then Tom Osborne, to his credit, had a brilliant career, but had not won a national championship. That was the closest he came in '83. Here we are a decade or more later. They meet in the 1994 season, and it appeared to me, I remember watching this game, I thought Nebraska's better. This is a better Nebraska team, but we're going to see the same thing. We're going to see that they just don't have a sophisticated enough passing attack to pull this off, but they did pull it off. And that was kind of a rebirth of Tom Osborne, and showed really his greatness, that near the end of his tenure, he took what they do extremely well and added just enough sophistication and skill in the passing offense to win 3 national championships in 4 years to finish off his career.
Yeah, but he also had. Yeah, but I was also going to say that he had 2 of the best players at key positions. Tommy Frazier, Heisman Trophy winner, who was, incredible, and then Lawrence Phillips, from Southern California, had to get out of the hood. He goes out there. He's one of the best athletes ever to play at Nebraska at running back. And you put them 2 dudes together, it was, you still were grounding and pounding, triple option, doing things like that. But then again, this is even from having Heisman Trophy caliber players, people who actually won, Mike Rozier, like you talked about, he won Heisman Trophy. You had these caliber, these elite kind of running backs and things like that. But that pairing of quarterback and running back, it was different. 95 Nebraska was different. It was an incredible team. It really was. To my personal estimation, I look at it as Miami 2001 is the best college football team ever, and I'm never, ever, ever going to have that conversation again, so you can debate amongst yourselves. But on my list, the number 2 that I've seen and read about and researched, things like that, it's 95 Nebraska. Because those are some beasts, absolutely and truly. So yeah, that was that kind of a team. And again, yeah, that pairing at quarterback and running back was just dynamic, and it did propel them to another national championship for them.
Yeah, they won the Orange Bowl and won the national championship over Miami the year before, 24-17. Obviously, the score indicates the closeness of the game. Then, generally that same team came to full maturity the next year, and they just bludgeoned Florida in the Fiesta Bowl to win the next 65 points on the board.
It was a beautiful thing.
Man. Oh,
great.
Just
man, you got the Nebraska fight song playing all the time. You just see those iconic red jerseys over white pants just running down the field. Oh, great. And wait, I'm talking about 2001 Miami. Like, I don't even remember, like, we won our most recent national championship against Nebraska. I mean, I don't necessarily think that the Nebraska team should have been there. And clearly, I think that we had named the score kind of capability. And went into Operation Shutdown.
The final score was 37-14, and it was a 37-14 game.
Yeah, it was
really bad.
That was like a 8-9 touchdown game. I mean, we could have done to Nebraska what Nebraska did to Florida in that Fiesta Bowl, or worse. I mean, we could have just honestly named the score and just kept running it up. I mean, they couldn't cover us, even though you had, Juwan Gross, who was a first-round draft pick at cornerback. He didn't have a chance, a snowball's chance in hell of covering Andre Johnson, let alone getting into any of the other guys. I mean, the running game was cooking. I mean, it was anything. And so, is there a storied history between the teams? Absolutely. Are they current rivals? No. But as we've talked about over these last few minutes, there's a strong history between Miami and Nebraska. I urge you, if you don't know all of these things, to go back and look them up, or look up the scores, read the recaps, watch the highlights or the full games that are available. Because, the matchups between Miami and Nebraska helped shape the world of college football that you know and love now, to be perfectly honest.
If we're going to nitpick about scores, I said 65 against Florida. It was 62-24. Yes, I do recall that, and I'll get nitpicky with Mike Williams here. Colorado dropped 66 on that 2001 Nebraska team. I think it was 62-36. There was a game the day after Thanksgiving, and that was the first BCS I shouldn't say the first, because obviously the year before, there was Miami, Florida State, Washington controversy with one loss, and of course, if you're going to select one of those three, you selected the wrong one.
Even
Washington had an argument. Okay, we beat Miami.
Florida That's what I'm saying. You had two reasonable choices in Florida State, and you picked Florida State. I'm like, and look, that was entirely a name brand, quote unquote, the logo has weight kind of choice, because they had just won a national championship. So you have the defending champs trying to defend their throne, or one of these other teams, and the BCS clearly went for the storyline instead of either team who was demonstrably better.
One season, it was a situation in which
I'm still mad, because we would have 6 or more.
Oh yeah, having played in that game, yeah.
I'm saying, Florida State got shut out. Yes, the score was 13-2, but that was because Oklahoma elected to take a safety on a late punt as opposed to getting it blocked. They got shut out. You know what I mean? Look, we beat them in a classic game, and Washington beat us in a classic game. So you have two teams who are better, and then you pick this other team on. I get it. Defending national championship program, Bobby Bowden coach, name brand Seminoles, still a name brand team, just like Miami's always going to be a name brand team, even though, we weren't good, or even last year. But you had two reasonable choices, and Florida State, who was not among the reasonable choice list, and you picked them, and we would have, if we played that Oklahoma team, we would have just scored again. We would have blown their doors off. It would have been if Washington would have played them, Washington would have blown their doors off. It would have been ugly. If you had any of those other teams in there in 2000, and the way we were rolling at the end of my freshman year, that's another name your score game. That's a 60. we would have that Oklahoma team.
Scoring 60 points on Oklahoma.
We would have blown their doors off. It would have not been close. It would not have been it wouldn't have been a contest. That Miami team at the end of that year was playing the best football of anybody in the country. We would have blown their doors off. Absolutely, completely and totally. Oh, we would have scored
60 points against that.
We would have destroyed them. But again, and I know you're like, Cam, cocky Miami fan. This is the 2000 team at the end of that year, though. This was peak optimization. This was at that level where I should be cocky fan. This was that kind of team on that kind of roll. Yet we'd have blown their doors off.
How badly did you beat Florida State?
Huh?
How badly did you beat Florida State?
We beat Florida State by 3 in
there
October.
You go. Then how does that?
But we kept that performance and they didn't. That's what I'm saying. We were at peak optimization. I know it's easy to look at the box scores and do this versus that. The way that team was playing, and I remember this. No. The way that team was playing, the way that we would have blown their doors off. It would have been ugly. It would have been ugly. We would have blown their doors off. Oh my God.
Okay. I can see how you would come to that conclusion, but I just have a hard time believing it would have been that ugly against a team that shut out Florida State. That was that good defensively to take on that type of offensive skill talent and shut them out.
I hear you, and I acknowledge your skepticism. We would have blown Oklahoma's doors off. It would have been it would have been the Nebraska game from 2001. It would have been name your score. We score 40, 50. You get a defensive touchdown in there. You're pushing towards 60. We would have blown their doors off. It would have been. It would not have been a contest. We would have destroyed them.
Okay. There we go. The BCS let us down just time and time again during that first several years. There's no question about that. I've gone on my rants about the BCS and what an awful system it was.
It was pretty terrible, not going to lie.
Just 2 years after that, Oklahoma made it back to a national championship game and lost their conference championship game by 4 touchdowns to Kansas State.
Yeah, that one was.
And then they show up in the national championship game.
But that was one where you had a predetermination. You had to, as long as they don't get embarrassed. Well, is 4 touchdowns embarrassing? I guess we're going to put them in there still because we decided that. And it's just Yeah, the BCS was, the bias was readily apparent, even though they said that there was none. But yeah.
There you have it. Appreciate the Miami talk each and every week with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cuban Canes asking about the height of Tate Martell and De'Ara King.
Don't care because he puts touchdowns up on the board. And it was a point of conversation with Tate Martell last year because Dan Enos was forcing Miami to play a pro-style offense where if you're operating from under center, height is more of a factor.
Chris Winkie did not play in that game. Are we talking about the national championship game? Sure he did. Chris Winkie did not.
Anyway.
All right. Cam, we appreciate it. We will figure out a time for next week, everybody. That's why you got to subscribe. And meanwhile, on State of the U.
Spring football practice. We got baseball stuff going on. We got basketball coming to the conclusion. Recruiting stuff. Obviously, welcome to the U for any commitments. And I got to get back in there with a little bit more commentary. So we have all that going on and much, much more. Be sure that you guys like and subscribe and just, become State of the U members. So stateoftheu.com. And it's free on SB Nation, by the way. So it is free 99 all the time. Stateoftheu.com on all social at The State of the U. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. My personal account is at Underwood Sports. And it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. I'll see you next time.
Don't kill me, please. I'm just a vibe. Now, come on. After week after week after week of current football news information, we just jam-packed this hour full of analysis, current analysis. We can't go back into yesteryear, the first week of March. Come on.
And you know, and it's the thing, like, it was, I forget what led us there, but it was something current that led us to that conversation of the past. It was a question about Nebraska. See, exactly. So that Nebraska question was the portal through which we went to the, went to Narnia and then started talking about, the past and everything. But it makes sense. So, yeah, fine. If you are displeased, first of all, I apologize. And second of all, tune in next week where we will not talk about anything but the current Miami Hurricanes and the state of college football. How about that?
There we go. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it, man.
No problem, Mark. I'll see you guys.